followed a path of crooked crosses, where every name was half erased. The wind was counting quiet losses. Through iron gates that time misplaced, your shadow walked a step behind me. Though I had come here all alone, the night knelt down as if to find me, and pressed my hand against the stone.
It wasn't cold, it wasn't sleeping. It shivered like a living chest. I heard a heartbeat slowly creeping beneath the marble's heavy weight.
This stone still breathes, it sighs my name. Each crack a mouth that speaks of shame. The letters bleed in silent grief. It steals my pulse, it steals belief. I'm not alone between these leaves. I hear the stone that still believes that what they buried wasn't dead, but all the words we never said.
The moss was shaped like grasping fingers around the dates that drowned in rust. The scent of wilted prayers still lingers, mixed with the taste of iron dust. I placed my ear upon the granite to prove the fear inside was wrong. But in the darkness under planet, I heard a half-remembered song.
A broken lullaby of soil, a breath that scratched against the lid, a coughing voice, a muffled coil of someone pleading, I still live. This stone still breathes, it sighs my name. Each crack a mouth that speaks of shame. The letters bleed in silent grief. It steals my pulse, it steals belief. I'm not alone between these leaves. I hear the stone that still believes that what they buried wasn't dead, but all the words we never said. The whispers spread from grave to graveyard, like roots that move beneath my feet. The air grew heavy, damp, and grave hard. The sky forgot the moon and street. I felt the earth begin to tremble, as if the bones turned in their beds. The names on marble tried to assemble into the one inside my head.
My fingers traced the faded letters until they almost spelled out me.
The stone exhaled through cracks and my childhood memory.
I saw my face in polished granite, a reflection that was not quite right.
Its eyes were buried, dark as planet. Its lips were packed with cemetery night. It asked if I was left here choking while you walked out and learned to live. Is every dream that you keep hoping just stolen air? I couldn't breathe. Count the heartbeats, 1, 2, 3.
You stole yours, you left me.
The stone still breathes beneath my hand. It drags me down like sinking sand. Each heartbeat rising from below demands the life I had to owe. If I walk out, the grave deceives. The cemetery never leaves. I feel it filling up my chest. I am the breath it never blessed. So if you wander past these trees where every silent statue grieves, you'll hear beneath the autumn wreaths a stone that shivers, a stone that breathes. I found the flowers pale and glowing, rooted deep in frozen ground. They bend toward graves where wind was blowing, yet not a petal touched the sound. No sun had warmed their ghost white faces, no rain had kissed their brittle stems. They bloomed in dead, forgotten places, like silent crowns for hollow hymns. I felt their fragrance pull me nearer, a scent too still, too old, too sweet. The air grew colder and then clearer, as if the dead began to breathe. These flowers never will, they stay through endless night, through ash and day. They drink the whispers of the dead, they bloom from words we never said. Their petals glow with stolen grace, they know the name I dare not face. They bloom for souls not laid to rest, and now they bloom inside my chest. I touched a stem, the ground responded, a tremor rising from below, as though the roots were death bonded to something moving far too slow. Their leaves were shaped like reaching fingers, their shadows stretched beyond their size, a scent of someone who still lingers, a memory with hollow eyes. And as the petals brushed my skin, I heard a murmur through the weeds. Your breath is where my life begins. Give me the air your body needs. These flowers never will, they stay through endless night, through ash and day. They drink the whispers of the dead, they bloom from words we never said. Their petals glow with stolen grace, they know the name I dare not face. They bloom for souls not laid to rest, and now they bloom inside roots crawled out like veins of stone. The earth beneath my feet commanded a heartbeat that was not my own. I saw the grave I'd once forgotten, a childhood date carved faint and thin. The flowers wrapped it cold and rotten and whispered, "Come back home again." We kept your place, we kept your breath. The petals bloom to feed your death. Their glow became a shining fever. The cemetery held its stare. The sky turned pale, a quiet bleeder. The flowers rose into the air. They bent toward me with hunger open, a blooming curse of muted screams. Each petal carried something broken, each leaf devoured forgotten dreams. These flowers never will nor fade. They bloom from every dead unpaid. They feed on memories that ache. They grow from breaths they didn't take. And now they bloom where I once stood, their roots replacing flesh and blood. They bloom because I didn't flee, and now their garden grows through me. And if you walk this path someday, where flowers glow but skies decay, don't touch the ones that shine too still. They bloom for those the earth would kill. The night was holding on to shadows, refusing dawn its rightful flame. The mist crawled low like dying swallows, and every tombstone whispered names. But one grave trembled more than others, a restless pulse beneath the ground, as if the dead were calling brothers to rise and gather round.
A sigh escaped the soil's cold seam, a breath too warm for burial sleep. The dawn prepared its weakest beam, and something stirred, and something creaked.
The grave that opens at the dawn reveals the breath that wasn't gone, a hand that rises through the dirt, a name returning from the hurt. When morning light begins to crawl, the dead don't sleep, they start to call. The grave that wakes when darkness fades reminds the son of all
The sky turned gray with hesitant courage. The wind forgot how dawn should sound. The crows froze silent in mid-forage. The world refused to look around. But still the soil began to fracture, as if with yearning long restrained, like something hungry for its captor, like life misplaced, then reclaimed.
A finger broke the crust of morning, pale as wax with dust for skin. A voice beneath gave quiet warning, don't let the sunlight pull me in. The grave that opens at the dawn reveals the breath that wasn't gone, a hand that rises through the dirt, a name returning from the hurt. When morning light begins to crawl, the dead don't sleep, they start to call. The grave that wakes when darkness fades reminds the sun of all its shades. The earth split wider like an eyelid, blinking open after years. And from below a face half livid wept a river made of fears. It stared at me like distant thunder, a storm I thought had long been past. But graves remember every blunder. What's buried always comes back last.
I kept your breath,
I kept your name.
I rose because
You stayed the same.
the dawn grew weak, the sky retreated. Its golden armor turned to dust. The sun itself felt cold, defeated, as grave and soul rebuilt their trust.
The ground inhaled with sudden hunger. The roots curled tight around my feet. The voice grew louder, deeper, younger. A dawn where death and daylight meet. The grave that opens at the dawn
Proves nothing truly leaves or's gone.
its silence breaks, its shadows lift.
The dead reclaim what daylight rips.
No sunrise here will
Burn away the ghosts who wait beneath the clay. For every dawn a grave reopens, and mine may be the next that's chosen.
And when you see first light withdrawn, remember this, you're not alone. There's always one grave waiting on the moment dawn becomes its home. I stepped between the leaning tombs where dawn was fading into rust. The air was thick with restless gloom, the ground was warm like waking dust. Each footprint echoed like a memory, soft as secrets wrapped in clay, and in that hush unbearably a whisper rose beneath my weight. It didn't drift like wind or prayer, it climbed through earth, it curled through stone, a trembling voice, half smoke, half air, that murmured, "You are not alone." There is a whisper beneath my feet, a buried voice too faint to greet. It follows steps I try to hide, it breathes below, it stays beside. It knows the roads I dare to flee, it knows the child I used to be. The earth remembers every beat of the whisper beneath my feet.
The soil began to shift and quiver, as if the graves were holding breath. The stones around me seemed to shiver, like bones in beds rehearsing death.
I knelt and pressed my ear to granite, as foolish hearts are known to do, and heard a sound no dawn could banish, a voice that almost sounded you.
My name was spoken through the dirt, with quiet grief and gentle ache, as if the grave itself was hurt by all the choices I would make.
There is a whisper beneath my feet, a buried voice too faint to greet. It follows steps I try to hide, it breathes below, it stays beside. It knows the roads I dare to flee, it knows the child I used to be. The earth remembers every beat of the whisper beneath my feet. The cemetery leaned in closer, with every statue bending low. The birds fell silent, crossing over, afraid of what the ground would show. A crack of soil broke wide and slender, like lips preparing for confession. And then a whisper, raw and tender, "Come back, you left unfinished lessons. If you return,
I'll let you breathe.
but take one step."
And you are me.
A pulse rose up from buried chambers, a heartbeat made of earth and stone, and with it came forgotten anger, the kind the dead can call their own. The whisper swelled into a chorus, 1,000 voices pulled from sleep, and every step I took before us was taken back by things beneath. There is a whisper beneath my feet, a truth too heavy to defeat. It digs through time, it claws through fears, it sings the names I failed to hear, and now it calls with sharpened plea. It asks for breath, it lost through me, for nothing buried stays complete when whispers rise beneath your. So walk with care on graves that weep, for every secret buried deep becomes a voice you must repeat, a whisper rising from your feet.
I found a lantern in the shadows. Its glass was cracked, its flame was weak. Yet through the mist of haunted meadows, it glowed enough to almost speak. The handle burned with frozen memory, its metal side beneath my hand. And when I raised it trembling, wary, the graves obeyed its silent command. For in its glow the stones grew brighter, the letters shimmered back to life, as though the light became a writer, rewriting every mortal strife. This lantern guards forgotten names. It keeps their ashes, keeps their flames. It lights the paths the dead once knew. It whispers they remember you. In trembling gold and ghostly gleams, it shows the faces lost to dreams. A lantern born from silent claims, the keeper of forgotten names.
I walked between the graves of strangers.
Yet each one called me like a friend.
The lantern brightened ancient dangers.
A warmth no living hand could send. It cast its glow on broken markers, revealing dates the world misread.
And from the cracks came whispers darker.
We are the names you left for dead. The flame grew tall with every secret, as if it fed on buried truths. The lantern showed what day conceals, the echoes of forgotten youths. This lantern guards forgotten names. It keeps their ashes, keeps their flames. It lights the paths the dead once knew. It whispers they remember you. In trembling gold and ghostly gleams, it shows the faces lost to dreams. A lantern born from silent claims, the keeper of forgotten names. I held it close, it felt familiar, too warm, too knowing in its light. A pulse within began to shimmer, a heartbeat shaped from stolen night. Inside the glass I saw a figure, its outline fragile, carved in dust. A silhouette that grew much bigger the closer I came to mistrust. Your name is here.
We kept it home.
Your lantern is a captive soul.
The flame turned blue, the ground responded. The graves leaned in like listening ears. The air around me felt death bonded, thick with sorrow, thick with years. The lantern pulsed like something breathing, a living relic forged from pain.
a flicker crawling through the dusk. Not quite a shape, not quite existence. A smear of night, a breath of musk. The grave stood still, the lantern faded, the flowers stiffened in their bloom. Yet there they walked a path unstated, shadows pulling back the gloom. They didn't follow light or reason, their steps rewound the dying day, as if the world had split its seasons and time forgot the proper way. Shadows walking backwards, retracing every sin, undoing all the footpaths where memory had been. They pull the night around them, they peel the dusk apart, reviving every echo you buried in your heart. For when the dead move backward, you feel the truth repeat. Their shadows walk behind you and force your pulse to meet. The lantern shook within my fingers, its glow reversed into the glass, as if the flame itself remembered the moment death first came to pass. The shadows wore no human bodies, yet every shape felt known to me, like blurred reflections of my follies lost in night's geometry. And with each step the shadows took, the world around me bent and bowed. The trees leaned in, the gravestone shook, the sky collapsed without a sound. Shadows walking backwards, retracing every sin, undoing all the footpaths where memory had been. They pull the night around them, they peel the dusk apart, reviving every echo you buried in your heart. For when the dead move backward, you feel the truth repeat. Their shadows walk behind you and force your pulse to meet. One shadow paused before my footsteps. It tilted as if listening. Its edges quivered like a breath kept by something deep and lingering. It reached its arm, or what resembled an arm undone by time and grief, and as the darkness slightly trembled, it touched my shadow like a thief.
Walk back with us, return the past. Your shadow walks too slow, too fast.
The ground rewound beneath my shoes, my footprints vanished in reverse. The whispering soil began to choose which memories were blessing or curse. The sky unlit its dying colors, the dawn I saw began to fade. The cemetery breathed like others who waited where my shadow stayed.
drag my shadow with them toward graves that once were mine. For when the dead walk backward, you're forced to hear their plea. They're heading to the moment where you became not free. So if you see the darkness bend, watch the bend and watch the night retreat. Beware the path the shadows mend. They walk behind your heartbeat. The night grew still around the cypress, a hush too heavy for the breeze. The moon hid deep behind the darkness, as if afraid of what it sees. Among the graves, one box kept trembling, its wooden spine refused to rest. The earth around it shook, assembling a pulse within its quiet chest. For coffins sleep when souls are willing, when breath has ceased, when hearts release. But this one kept its heartbeat thrilling, denying death its rightful peace. The coffin wouldn't sleep tonight. It rocked beneath a ghost-lit sky. It whispered tales of stolen breath. It fought the ancient laws of death. Its hinges moaned, its nails cried out, as if the world forgot its route. No grave can hold what wants to keep a pulse alive, a coffin sleep. The soil above began to shudder, a warning wrapped in shivering sound. The flowers wilted toward each other, afraid of what might leave the ground. I heard a knock, a slow, soft tapping, like fingers learning how to feel. A rhythm patient, gently rapping, a plea that waded through the seal. And in that pulse I felt a story of someone trapped between two worlds, a name erased, a fractured glory, a silence desperate to unfold. The coffin wouldn't sleep tonight. It rocked beneath the ghost-lit sky. It whispered tales of stolen breath. It fought the ancient laws of death. Its hinges moaned, its nails cried out, as if the world forgot its route. No grave can hold what wants to keep a pulse alive, a coffin sleep. I knelt beside the trembling timber and felt its warmth through buried screams, as if the dead began to simmer with fevered echoes, shattered dreams. The coffin pushed against the soil like lungs that forced their final gasps, as though the dead refused their toil and reached for life they couldn't grasp. Don't let the earth, don't let it see you. There is one soul I need to steal. The lid cracked open like an eyelid, a sliver of forgotten
needed to feel the world regain its light. The coffin quaked with rising hunger, its shadows stretching toward my skin. It felt the living standing under the moon. It longed to breathe again. The coffin wouldn't sleep tonight. It clawed its way through fading light. It claimed a breath, it claimed a name. It whispered mine with shaking shame. No coffin sleeps while life still calls. No death is dead within these walls. The grave restores what darkness reap, a coffin's vow. So if you hear a tapping deep beneath the soil, the shadows keep. Don't stay to listen, don't dare peep. Some coffins wake from darker sleep. Beneath the marble, cold and solid, a trembling sound began to rise. Not a wind, not a root, not shifting squalid, a human breath that softly cries. The stone above me vibró un segundo, as if the grief inside could speak. Each crack became a trembling window. Each echo grew more faint, more weak.
It wasn't myth, it wasn't memory. It was a voice that once knew light.
A plea entombed in ancient reverie, still begging dawn to make things right. There is a cry beneath the marble, a sound the world was not to hear, a voice that died yet stays so partial, still trapped between our breath and fear. Claws the stone, it shakes the earth, it mourns the life it lost by birth. For even death must sometimes garble a cry beneath the weight of marble.
I place my hands upon the surface, cold enough to numb my bones.
Yet warm beneath with hidden purpose, as if the grave held living tones.
The cry grew louder, raw and pleading, a fragile hum of breaking will.
It felt like someone slowly bleeding, a name the world could not fulfill. And in that muffled lament
the dead still hold their indignation for endings they were forced to hide. There is a cry beneath the marble, a sound the world was not to hear, a voice that died yet stays so partial, still trapped between our breath and fear. Because the stone, it shakes the earth, it mourns the life it lost by birth, for even death must sometimes garble a cry beneath the weight of marble. The lantern's glow began to flicker, the shadows bent in hushed distress, the cry rang out a moment quicker, shattered by its own duress.
It spoke no words, but I could feel them. Regret, despair, a stolen breath, a plea to someone who could heal them or share the cold embrace of death. Don't walk away,
Don't leave me here.
your name is close.
Your grave is near.
The marble shifted, strained and cracking, as if the voice fought through its cage. The cemetery leaned, attacking, the silence built through endless age.
The soil pulsed with rising pressure, the cry became a ruptured moan, a desperate grasp, a final measure to rise above its tomb of stone. There is a cry beneath the marble, a truth too heavy to conceal, a voice denied its final marvel, a wound the earth refused to heal. And now it knows my step, my breath, it calls for me in life and death. For grave remember who they call, and marble cannot block them all. So listen when the silence shakes, when stone itself begins to weep. For every cry the dead awake will hunt the ones who dared to midnight sharp, the graveyard shifted, the air grew tight, the shadows thin, the moonlight wavered as if lifted by something waking deep within. The marble slabs began to glisten, their surfaces alive with dread, as though the dead leaned up to listen to every echo left unsaid. Then on one stone a sound like carving, slow, deliberate, dragging scream, a whisper sharpened into starving, etching lines that change their shape.
The name scratched at midnight, a warning in stone, a message that daylight must never have known.
It wasn't a stranger's, it wasn't the slave, the name on the marble was my own written name.
A frozen place, the letters forming,
As if a hand I couldn't see
was drawing truth, the earth was storming.
a name the dead reclaimed from me. Each stroke was trembling, cold, insistent. Each curve a memory long denied.
scratched at midnight, a warning in stone, a message that daylight must never have known.
It wasn't a stranger's, it wasn't the slave. The name on the marble was my own written name.
The lantern in my hand grew heavy, its flame recoiled in sudden fear. The graves around me swayed unsteady, as if they wished I wasn't here. The scratch became a quiet humming, like breath beneath a coffin lid.
A voice that whispered, "You've been coming." We always knew, we always did.
The stone remembers what you forget. Your place was written, your sun has set.
The name shone bright with ghostly shimmer.
Its letters glowing pale and raw,
The earth below began to simmer.
rebelling against nature's law. And as I stared, the truth unraveled. This grave, it waited long for me. Its story twisted, bruised, and traveled through shadows of my memory. The name scratched at midnight, unchanged by the dawn. The grave that rewrote me to where I belong. A whisper, a shiver, a pulse through my frame. The dead have decided to reclaim mine.
So if you walk the graves at night
And hear a scrape through fading light,
don't look.
the stone may do the same and carve for you your rightfully name. The mausoleum loomed above me, a monument of stone and grief. Its doors were sealed, yet strangely breathing, as if the night gave it relief.
The carvings trembled in the moonlight,
The pillars shivered in the cold,
a rhythm echoed through the dim light.
a pulse no tomb should ever hold. It throbbed beneath its marble skin, a heartbeat thick with ancient dust, as though the dead refused to give in, as though the stone betrayed its trust.
The mausoleum's pulse is strong, a beat that shouldn't last this long. It shakes the ground with every breath, the cradle made for nameless death. Its echo calls the graves awake, it hums the fears we try to fake, for stone remembers every wrong.
The mausoleum's pulse goes on.
I press my hand against its surface, cold at first, then strangely warm. A warm
warmth that grew with wicked purpose, a swell that hinted at a storm.
Each heartbeat echoed through my fingers, a borrowed rhythm, slow and deep, a force that rises when it lingers, a dead thing learning how to keep. And with each throb the air grew heavy, the lantern dimmed, the flowers bent, the cemetery watched already, as if it knew what this pulse meant. The mausoleum's pulse is strong, a beat that shouldn't last this long. It shakes the ground with every breath, a cradle made for nameless death. Its echo calls the graves awake, it hums the fears we try to fake, for stone remembers every wrong. The mausoleum's pulse goes.
A sound like lungs began expanding, stone ribs that groaned with ancient strain. The doors pushed outward, misunderstanding the laws that separate life from pain.
A heartbeat spilled into the graveyard, a living thought beneath my knees. It beats so loud, it beats so wayward, as if the dead began to breathe. Come closer now, you share my beat. Your heart is slow, my pulse complete. The sky collapsed into a whisper, the trees leaned in with bending grace. The mausoleum pulsed much quicker, a dying heart that shows my pace. It synced itself with breath I carried, it matched the rhythm in my chest. And in that moment, grave and living became one pulse that couldn't rest. The mausoleum's pulse remains, it beats through stone, through dirt, through veins. It takes the breath the dead once missed, it steals the life the dust dismissed. And now its rhythm marks my own, its heartbeat hums within my bones. For once you hear that ancient song, the mausoleum sings you on. So if you feel the ground awakening, a trembling hum beneath your feet, it means the stone has grown impatient and seeks a new heart for its beat. The night grew thin, the air grew colder. The graves leaned in to hear the sound. A trembling hum grew bolder, older, rising slowly from the ground. It wasn't wind, it wasn't insects, nor shifting earth or metal rings. It felt like something long neglected, remembering what silence brings.
And then I knew what stirred below, what called the pulse of buried time. The bones began to hum their woe,
A mournful dissonant taken right.
Bones that hum beneath the dirt, voices shake from grief and hurt. They sing of lives that slipped away, they hum the truths we dare not say. Their chorus crawls through roots and stone, a lullaby
throats, relearning song, a choir dead, but somehow ready to drag the living along. The ground beneath me swelled and quivered, each frequency a phantom breath, as though the earth itself delivered a choir raised from second death.
The lantern flickered, weak, defensive. The shadows shook like waking skin. The hum became a deep offensive,
A warning crawling from within.
Bones that hum beneath the dirt, voices shake from grief and hurt. They sing of lives that slipped away. They hum the truths we dare not say. Their chorus crawls through roofs and stone, a lullaby from fleshless bone. And once you hear their trembling drum, you cannot flee the bones that hum.
I heard a rhythm, soft but blooming, a pattern pulled from long ago, a memory I'd left consuming my fear of what I used to know. The hum aligned with my own heartbeat, a synchronization raw and wrong, as if the bones beneath my feet were teaching me their ancient song. You walked away, but we remained. Your name is carved, your pulse
The earth split open with vibration, a resonance too real to bear, a requiem without salvation that filled the cemetery air.
I felt it crawling up my ankles, occurring cold as winter's breath. The hum became a chain that shackles my heartbeat to their timeless death.
Bones that hung beneath the dirt, calling wounds you never heard. They gather breath from those who roam. They lure the living closer home. And once they choose the one to come, no dawn can still the bones that hum. For they have waited far too long to pull me back where I belong.
So listen close when silence fades, when earth begins its ghost parades. That hum you hear through soil and drum is calling you like bones that at the cemetery's restless border, I found a window framed in stone. No house around, no wall, no order. A single frame, a thing alone. Its glass was fogged with breath unspoken, with warmth no living soul had left. A relic from a world once broken, a portal shaped by death's own theft. expecting darkness, a pain of night, a void of dread. But in its shine with chilling starkness, I saw the faces of the dead. Through the window of the dead, they watch with eyes the earth misled. Their pale reflections, cold and near, appear where living forms disappear. It shows a world beneath our own, a place where whispered names are grown. And once you see what lies ahead, you never leave the window of the dead.
I raise my lantern to its surface and felt the warmth of someone's gaze, a ghostly stare with quiet purpose, as if it knew my childhood maze.
The window shimmered soft and aching, each ghostly face grew more defined, and though their lips were still unshaking, I heard them whisper in my mind.
Their fingers pressed against the glass,
their shadows etched in silently.
they begged for lives they couldn't pass,
For breaths they'd lost to history. Through the window of the dead, they watch with eyes the earth misled. Their pale reflections, cold and near, appear where living forms disappear. It shows a world beneath our own, a place where whispered names are grown. And once you see what lies ahead, you never leave the window of the
then
dead.
in the glass among the faces,
I saw a shape disturb the frame,
a figure shifting through the spaces, and then I recognized my name.
my own reflection wasn't showing,
The pain refused to echo me.
but in its depth a stranger growing wore my shadow perfectly.
Return to us,
Your breath we can,
the living window
intercepts.
The glass grew warm, the air expanded, the window pulsed with stolen lives. Its visions drifted, half demanded a truth the cemetery
I
derived.
felt a tug behind my ribcage.
a breath that wasn't fully mine.
The dead reached out across the wind's age to claim me through their fractured shrine. Through the window of the dead,
They call you from the lives you've shed.
they pull your shadow through the veil.
They whisper truths the living fail.
And once the dead have seen your face, you feel their fingers claim your place. For no one walks where graves have bled, unchanged by the window of the dead.
So if you find a frame of stone with glass that hums like skin and bone, don't look too long, you'll join instead the silent cry. soil beneath my feet was breathing, a warmth too old for living ground, as though the earth itself was seething, with stories buried and never drowned. Each step unearthed a quiet shiver, a whisper shaped from ancient lore. The graves around began to quiver. The soil remembered every home,
Not just the bones,
not just the faces,
but every tear and every vow.
the soil held all forgotten traces and slowly offered them somehow. This soil remembers everything,
The pain, the breath, the fall, the sting,
keeps each name, each weighted lie.
each final word, each unseen cry.
It holds the steps the dead once made,
The seeds of truth we let decay.
for nothing lost stays gone forever. In soil that learns to reassemble.
I knelt and pressed my hand upon it, expecting cold, expecting stone.
But warmth rose up like some old comet that finds again its ancient home.
A memory not mine engulfed me.
A child running through the rain,
A mother calling, trying to hold me.
a voice that bent beneath its pain.
The soil took breath from my own chest and gave me visions not yet mine, as though it knew I'd failed a test.
Written in its shifting spine, this soil remembers everything.
The pain, the breath, the fall, the sting,
Keeps each name, each weighted lie.
each final word, each unseen cry.
It holds the steps the dead once made,
The seeds of truth we let decay.
for nothing lost stays gone forever. In soil that learns to reassemble. Then came a pulse, a deeper trembling, the earth unfolding like a lung. The graves exhaled their breath, resembling the thoughts of those who died too young. The wind grew still, the ground grew eager. My lantern shook with ghostly heat. The soil spoke in tones far weaker than any voice that dared to meet.
We kept your name,
We kept your feet.
we kept your footsteps.
All these years.
Images poured like broken water.
Memories split like fractured glass.
Not mine, yet mine the earth had slaughtered.
Boundaries of time gone past.
The soil rose up around my ankles.
My pulse became a borrowed beat. It held me firm in spectral shackles, inviting me beneath its sheet. This soil remembers everything.
The lost, the found, the bone, the wing,
The moments carved in grief or flame.
the secrets buried without name.
I felt the shovel before I saw him, a steady scrape against the night, a rhythm cutting through the solemn air, where lanterns feared their light.
No living man could dig so softly, no hum a tune so cold and dry.
It drifted upward, distant, ghostly, a lullaby no grave defies.
And then I saw a silhouette,
A shape that fog refused to keep, a figure working without sweat, who never woke, who never sleeps. The phantom grave digger digs alone for names the earth has not yet known. He carves the future into clay. He buries those who walk away with hollow eyes and steady hand. He shovels lives we misunderstand. For every grave he shapes in gloom, already waits for whom he'll choose.
his code was torn by time unspoken, his hat pulled low across the void.
His boots left footprints never broken, as if the soil they touched enjoyed.
Each shovel fully tossed was lighter than any dirt the living lift, as though the ground grew strangely brighter whenever he prepared a shift.
And though I stood a breath away, he never turned, he never guessed. But shadows bent to where he lay. They knew his path, they knew his rest. The phantom grave digger digs alone for names the earth has not yet known. He carves the future into clay. He buries those who walk away with hollow eyes and steady hand. He shovels lives we misunderstand. For every grave he shapes in gloom, already waits for whom he'll
Then
choose.
suddenly he paused his labor,
As if he sensed my living breath,
his shadow stretched, became my neighbor.
and whispered softly, we all rest. He pointed to the grave he'd opened, a hollow mouth of waiting stone. And though no corpse lay there unspoken, the headboard bore my name alone.
I dig for those who hear the call.
The soil knows you, knows your fall. He stepped aside, the grave expanded, the earth released a mournful sigh, as if the world itself had demanded I join the dead who never die. The phantom shovel hit the ground, each strike a pulse against my chest. The cemetery gathered round to witness who would join their rest. The phantom grave digger digs for me, for those whose shadows disagree. He shapes the pit where breath resigns. He hums the tune of ending lives. And though I flee, the truth remains. He follows footprints, follows names. For every grave beneath the star is dug by him, no matter where you are.
So if you hear a distant scrape,
A shovel song no wind could make, beware the earth No footsteps echoed through the pathway. No mourners gathered by the gate. The sky was dim and muted ash gray. The clouds too heavy to relate. The coffin lay without its watchers. The flowers dried before the dawn, and still the air grew cold and cautious, as if the dead were looking on.
A funeral without a whisper, no voice to bless, no tear to fall.
Yet something deeper stirred the fissures, a presence waiting for the call.
This is the silent funeral, where shadows bow but none recall, where names are carved but never read, where grief belongs to only dead.
The world forgot the one who lay, but death remembered anyway, for silence holds a darker ritual than any spoken funeral.
The priest was missing, long departed. The hymn book closed with dust and age.
The memories that should have started remained unwritten on the page.
No candles lit to guide the passing. No gentle hands to hold the soul.
The sky itself seemed grimly asking why no one came to fill the role.
Yet through the hush a sound descended, a breath too long, too cold, too near.
A funeral that death attended, with voices only dead could hear.
This is the silent funeral, where shadows bow but none recall, where names are carved but never read, where grief belongs to only dead.
The world forgot the one who lay, but death remembered anyway, for silence holds a darker ritual than any spoken funeral. The coffin lid began to tremble, the wood expanding with a sigh,
As though the corpse tried to assemble the strength to rise, the will to cry.
shed, no names were said. So I remain not truly dead.
The ground around the grave grew hollow. The flowers shrank in fearful grace.
The air grew tight enough to swallow the living worn from every face. And then the coffin sighed once more, a breath that didn't quite belong. A funeral with an open door, inviting me to join its song. This is the silent funeral, where emptiness becomes the call, where souls without a witness wait for someone else to share their fate. And when they choose by name, for death's devotion is the same. So tread with care where shadows dwell. You may attend your own farewell. For silence is a eulogy, a hymn that none alive can see, a funeral not meant for all, yet all may hear its distant call. At dusk the cemetery softened, the wind held low to hold his breath. The flowers wilted where they often had tried to decorate a death. No footsteps stirred the aging gravel, no visitors with trembling hands. Yet by one grave a shape unraveled, alone beneath the ghostly lands.
A single figure bowed in sorrow.
Its outline blurred, its heartbeat thin,
As if it borrowed from tomorrow.
the grief the world forgot to bring. He is the last mourner, the one who never leaves. He weeps for every name the living fails to grieve. He stands through every season, he knows each soul by fate. He waits for those forgotten
I stepped toward him, slow and cautious, unsure if he was flesh or mist. His shoulders trembled, pale and gaunt as a prayer the darkness had dismissed.
He never turned, though I grew nearer. He only bowed more deeply still, as if the grave became a mirror of all the pain he could not kill. And then he whispered in a voice that sounded cracked from centuries. We mourn because we have no choice. A dead deserve sincerity. He is the last mourner, the one who never leaves. He weeps for every name the living fails to grieve. He stands through every season. He knows each soul by fate. He waits for those forgotten behind the rusted gate. For when the world grows silent and all the tears grow colder, the dead still have a witness. The cemetery's last mourner. The grave before him split in silence, its soil shifting like a sigh. And though no violence or defiance was seen, the world fell near to die.
I mourn the lost, I mourn the living.
I mourn the names the earth keeps giving. The lantern in my hand grew heavy. Its flame recoiled in quiet dread. The mourner's outline blurred unsteady, a shifting shadow with the dead.
He took a step, the soil responded. A pulse moved through the tombstone's beds.
And every grave around us bonded their silence to the tear he shed. He is the last mourner, unchanged by dust or time. He sings the dead their requiem in whispers shaped like rhyme. He bowed before my shadow as if he somehow knew the grave that waits in silence would one day wait for me too. For when the world forgets you and memory slips further, he'll be the only witness. The cemetery's last mourner.
So if you see him weeping, don't ask him who he mourned. belongs to souls unborn.
The moon shone pale upon the hillside where crosses stood in crooked rows, but one leaned sharply to the right side as if it trembled at the ghost. No storm had struck, no hand had touched it, no wind had urged its spine to bend, yet still it bowed as though it clutched at a fear it couldn't comprehend.
Tilted by fear was warning me to stay, a sign the night revere, a plea to turn away. It bowed beneath the weight of something drawing near, a truth the dead translate, the cross that bends from fear.
I walked toward it slow and cautious, each step a question in the dirt. The air grew tight, the dark grew nauseous, as if the earth recalled its hurt. The tilted cross began to shiver, its shadow long and strangely deep, a trembling force that made me quiver, as though the grave forgot to sleep.
Tilted by fear was warning me to stay, a sign the night revere, a plea to turn away. It bowed beneath the weight of something drawing near, a truth the dead translate, the cross that bends from fear.
The lantern in my hand was dying, its flame retreated into ash. The cemetery felt like spying on secrets born from shadows' lash. The cross leaned further, sharp and pleading, its wood began to groan aloud, a cry of saints and sinners bleeding from memories the earth endowed. It bends for you, it bends for grief, it knows the night, it fears belief. A scream erupted from the soil, a muffled roar without a face. The graves around began to coil as darkness crept from place to place. The cross collapsed into a bowing, a prayer carved in broken wood, a sign the dead had started knowing that I was closer than I should.
The cross tilted by fear was never meant to stand. It signals who draws near with breath, no soul.
leaves curl around my ankles, a breath of frost without a wind. The trees stood still, their branches angled, as if they feared what moved within. A chill rose up, a slow encroaching, a presence soft yet sharp as glass, a touch that felt like death approaching from memories I failed to pass. It wasn't cold like winter weather, but cold that knew my pulsing name. A chill that pulled my bones together and wrapped me with a ghost domain. The cold embrace found me tonight, a grip without a form in sight, a lover made of frost and grief, who steals your warmth but not your breath. It held me with a desperate plea, as if it longed to merge with me. For death feels less like fear or chase when you accept its cold embrace.
It slid along my spine so gently, a whisper carved in frozen skin, a pressure soft but strangely friendly, as if it begged to pull me in. My lantern dimmed, the flame retreated, a shiver climbed into my chest, and every heartbeat felt defeated, a prisoner to something blessed.
The cold grew tighter, slowing, closing, a hunger missed by those who died, a warmth the dead found decomposing when life refused to let them hide. The cold embrace found me tonight, a grip without a form in sight, a lover made of frost and grief, who steals your warmth but not your breath. It held me with a desperate plea, as if it longed to merge with me. For death feels less like fear or chase when you accept its cold embrace. I felt a heartbeat, not my own, a rhythm chilling, slow, divine, a pulse pulled up from under stone to force itself along with mine. A voice exhaled against my shoulder, a sigh that never learned to die. And though the air was growing colder, the touch felt almost like goodbye.
You left too soon,
You left our place.
come back into the cold embrace. Returned with sudden violence, as if enraged I hadn't stayed. The graves leaned forward in defiance, demanding warmth the dead portray. The cold embrace turned fierce and pleading, its grip a rope of frost and ache, a soul that wouldn't stop its needing of warmth it never got to take. The cold embrace refused to fade, it clung to every breath I made. It begged for life, for stolen heat, for hearts the dead could not complete. And though I tore myself away, I know it waits for one more day. For once you feel its ghostly trace, you never outrun.
a tremor in the hollow, a pressure thick as trapped regret, a breath that rose from corridors the living rarely dare to tread. It wasn't wind nor shifting tunnels, nor echoes lost in buried rooms. It was a breath that forced its funnels through lungs that slept inside the tomb. There is a breath in the catacombs, a living gas through silent bones. It crawls along the walls of stone. It looks where lungs to call its own. It moves where light has never been. It follows heartbeats deep within. For death still longs, still stirs, still roams inside the breath of my lantern flickered with a warning. Its flame pulled backward into dust. The air grew colder like a morning. For everything the dark had lost, I heard the breath grow slow and aching, a rasp that dragged across the floor, as if the dead were dimly waking from centuries of whispered lore. It drifted closer, soft but present, a pulse of someone never freed, a soul that clung to air incessant because it still remembered me. There is a breath in the catacombs, a living gas through silent bones. It crawls along the walls of stone. It looks for lungs to call its own. It moves where light has never been. It follows heartbeats deep within. For death still longs, still stirs, still roams inside the breath that comes a cold. The tunnels echoed with its hunger, each sigh a plea the dead one spoke. The arches vibrated like thunder, contained beneath the world they broke. I felt the breath slide through my fingers, a cold caress, a stolen taste, a remnant of a life that lingers in spaces time refused to waste. You hold the air, you hold my past. Give me one breath that I may last. The walls contracted tight and trembling, like lungs that fought to rise again. The catacombs became assembly, the heartbeat of forgotten men. The breath grew strong, it wrapped around me, a parasite of chill and grief. And in its grasp I felt it crown me, the bearer of its stolen breath. There is a breath in the catacombs, a ghost that seeks a living home. It reaches out with hollow moans to claim the pulse beneath your bones. And once it learns your rhythm's pace, it follows you from place to place. For death will chase The graves align like quiet choirs. The wind bent low as if to follow a hymn born from the buried fires.
The earth beneath my feet was breathing a long exhale of dust and bone, and every tombstone started weaving a melody the dead had sown.
No human voice could shape this singing. No living throat could bear its weight. It was the sound of endings clinging to names the world forgot to lay.
This is the cemetery's final song, the last breath where the dead belong. A mournful choir of dust and stone that calls the lost back to their home.
It echoes deep beneath the ground, a symphony of souls unbound. Once you hear where you belong, you answer to the final song.
The shadows swayed in strange procession, their forms like smoke in ghostly prayer. The graves hummed low in shared confession, their stories rising through the air.
The coffin lids began vibrating. The mausoleum throbbed in two. Each voice of dirt reverberating beneath the trembling dying moon.
The soil erupted with its chorus, each heartbeat synced to graves below.
The dead were lifting up before us the song they sang so long ago.
This is the cemetery's final song, the last breath where the dead belong. A mournful choir of dust and stone that calls the lost back to their home.
It echoes deep beneath the ground, a symphony of souls unbound. Once you hear where you belong, you answer to the final song. My name returned within the singing, a note too bold for mortal ears, a memory the dead kept clinging to echo through forgotten years.
The ground beneath began to open, a mouth of moss and fractured clay.
And in its breath, the truth unspoken, sin, a cherry knew my way.
You heard a song,
You walk too near
the final song is meant
for you.
your name, your breath, your tether
final song. So walk with care where shadows cry, for when the final notes draw nigh,
The graves will pull your name along into their